Welcome to Sports CTO Talks. In this series, we will be connecting with sports leaders from across the world, where we will simplify sports technology for you. I'm Ami, your sports guide on this journey through the minds of amazing tech leaders into the industry. We will dive deep into conversations from the industry leaders and experts, from AI to cloud, from cybersecurity to sustainability. If it is sports tech, we are talking about it. Today, we have an amazing and interesting guest with us who has joined, Mr. Stephan Laven. He's the CEO and co-founder of Data Talks. We welcome you, Stephan.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
He is the visionary founder of Data Talks, the leading sports customer data platform. He is also an author of more supporters, superior sales, real revenue, four fundamentals of selling tickets and merchandise. As an advisor and co-founder of Sports Tech Sweden, Stephan is committed to advancing Swedish sports tech to a world-class standard. Stephan's passion for innovation and his proven expertise in driving strategies make him a driving force in transforming the sports industry. Data Talks enables sports organizations to maximize revenue growth by leveraging supporter data to drive smarter ticket sales, merchandise strategies, and sponsorship opportunities. Today, he would be talking about monetizing fan data for long-term sports and for business growth. So once again, we welcome you, Stephan, to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So my first question to you is can you share a bit about your journey with us and how you became passionate about leveraging fan data?
Well, as all things, there is definitely like a journey involved, right? And I've been working in this space for a very long time, up to 25 years now. So it's been a long while, and there's been so much happening on the technology side, of course, during that period. And the question has always been there, like there's been like so much talk about the value of data, and the question has always been like, but how do you actually extract real value from it and not some calculated value? Like how can you actually make data drive a sale, a real sale, which is not just it's not just an email going out, but an actual sale. So that has been a question that's been like very interesting to me. So I think that's sort of the basis for my interest is just to make sure that like using technology and data in a way that it actually creates tangible value and not just something that people, well, yes, we believe that maybe if we calculate it this way, then this value has been derived. I want to make sure that it is real value, and then make it very accessible for the people that actually create that value, for the, like in this case, for the marketing people, for the sales people. So that's why I'm passionate about it, is because I want that to happen. So sort of those questions have been the driving force for me.
Okay, so like as you are there from almost 3 decades now, like 2 to 3
Yeah.
decades, that sounds
It just
heavy.
shows you how old I am, right?
And it is adding so much experience and value to what you speak. That is the best thing about it. So how have you seen the transition of the role, of the fan data evolving into the sports industry?
Oh, I think right now, like where we are right at this moment, there's a huge change going on. There's a huge transformation going on in the sports industry. And it's, of course, fueled by technology to some extent, but also fueled, of course, by more investments coming into the industry and into the clubs, into the leagues. Yeah, so I mean, that it's of course fueled by that, and then because of like the investments that are coming in, there is also bigger need or a demand actually to create sustainable revenues. So I think that those are really the big driving forces for this to actually happen. And another thing is that the technology that we have today, if you use it in the right way, it evens out like the score between the really big clubs and the smaller ones. Actually, if you use technology in the right way, you can, as a smaller club, you can have the exact same capabilities as the ones with big budgets and big names in the industry, right? So that's a fascinating day and age that we're in. And of course, that is fueled by technology, by AI, and all of those things. But the need for it to change is fueled by, I would say, like the investments and the sort of need for sustainable revenue. That's like the underlying driving force.
Okay. So, like, how do you see it in the next like 2 years or 5 years? How is it going to change the industry?
Uh, you mean technology, or do you mean like the yeah?
The technology into the sports industry.
Um, I think that is first of all, I think it's a really hard question to answer because anyone who sort of dares to do any like prediction on that will most likely be wrong, right? Because we tend to underestimate like the changes that happen. That's really difficult. But I think it will. I think it will change the way that we interact with fans, of course. It will change the way that sports is consumed in a way. But there's a lot of talk, like for instance, like the younger audience, the Gen Z. That's like something that's a topic on everyone's mind, right? Talking about how do we attract them, how do we get them to engage with us. And I think that Gen Z will absolutely. I mean, every sort of generation has its sort of tweaks to everything, and of course they will as well. But I think there is still an underlying demand and want to consume sports. Um, Maybe it will be done on different platforms and so on, but I think the product of sports will still have a value, and they still want to consume it. And there's a lot of talk about that Gen Z, well, they will never watch a full game. They only watch the snippets. I don't think so. That I don't believe so. I believe that they will absolutely still would want to watch a full game. They will still want to go to live events because as soon as you've gone to your first live event, you want to go to the next one. And I think it's like a it's it's a base it's like a human need to belong to the herd, right? And when you're in a like a supporter situation, a fan base, you're part of a herd. You're part of that community, and that is a strong want for all humans to feel that belonging. So I think that will drive a lot the way that we actually want to consume sports. So yeah, let's
Okay.
hope I don't make a fool out of myself by doing that prediction. Well, let's see. The future will tell.
Let's see. But it's always positive. Anything happening, we are supposed to take it in a positive way. It's good.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, like, what type of fan data are most valuable for the sports organizations or the companies, and how does it help the companies, to maximize the use of it?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question, and there is not one straight answer to it, unfortunately, because it depends on what the objective of the club is. So depending on what problem they're trying to solve, like okay, so let's say that we have a problem with attendance, we need to sell more tickets, or we need to get more season ticket holders, or what it might be. Well, then of course, then ticketing data will be central in that. But if it's more of, well, we have the attendance and we're quite happy with the merchandise as well. I mean, it's doing what we expect it to do, like those revenue streams. It's more on the sponsorship side. Well, then it's other data sets that will be interesting to sort of solve that problem. So it depends on the use case a bit. But then, of course, there are some like data sources that are always going to be in that mix. And that is, of course, like ticketing data will have to be there. Demographic data needs to be there, and then also behavioral data, like what are our fans doing on our different platforms, whether it being on the website, or if it's the app, or if it's the streaming service. You will want to know what content they're consuming, for how long, and so on, because you need both sides, right? You need the transactional piece to understand like what they're buying and that behavior, but then you need the behavioral part as well to understand the full engagement. And once you have those sort of pieces and understanding that engagement pattern, that's when you can identify the gaps, and the gaps are the opportunity to try to get more engagement, or actually to sell something more, or to make them come to that additional game per year, or whatever the objective might be.
Okay, so like, how do sports organizations, or how can they rather balance between the compliances, the data privacy regulations, and, monetize it?
Oh, well, I mean, actually, if you talk about, like, if you talk about Europe and you talk about GDPR, all right, which is like the regulation again about data privacy in Europe, it's actually a good thing. I mean, we tend to talk about it like it's a problem, but it's not. It's actually a good thing, because what it, I like, if you just pick it apart a little bit, what it actually says is that don't talk to someone who doesn't want to talk to you. That's basically what it says. And you can turn that around and say, well, we should only talk to the ones where we've earned the trust to actually talk to them. And that should be something that should be a guideline for anyone. And then you should do it in a way that you know that the supporters will actually appreciate, which means that the way you use data should be guided by those principles, which means that if you think about it in those terms, then being compliant is not a problem as such. It won't stop you from doing the activations or talking to the supporters in any way, really, because it should from the start be the guiding principle. But then, of course, you have the practical thing about it. Like, how do we then make sure that we're compliant? Well, that is by having control of your data and having it in a way where you know exactly, like you can be certain that those who have opted in and those who have opted out, you're certain that they're receiving the information that they've signed up for. So it's about control in that sense, and that responsibility is definitely on the clubs to make sure that they're in control with that, and that they're compliant. But from a marketing perspective, it is actually the way that, like, the compliance issue is actually a good guideline from the beginning. That's sort of my take on it. But I think the control part is, of course, really important. Because it can be expensive if you're not compliant. So yeah, you should definitely, if you feel that there's a chance that you're not being compliant, then that's definitely an issue you should be taking seriously and looking into it. But it doesn't have to be a bad thing, because the investment that you might need to be compliant can actually be a really good investment. And if you do it correctly, it will actually help you engage fans more, create more revenue. So there's always that piece of it.
Okay, so like, can you share like a few examples, or one or two examples where Data Talks has helped a team successfully to monetize the data to enhance engagement in any way?
Oh yeah, I mean there are many. I mean there are many examples of this, right? So I mean, okay, so if we just, what is it that our customers actually do? Well, what they do is, first of all, they understand, like what we were talking about earlier, that they understand the engagement, and by doing that, they can start working with the data and identifying the gaps, or like what we'd like to say, the opportunities, right? So then seeing that, then they can create like these very granular segments, which means that if you can create these granular segments, these smaller segments, means that when you talk to those individuals, you will be more relevant, you will be more personalized. And then also using the data that you have around the supporters means that in the message, you can take the data that you actually have, incorporate it into the messages, which gives a completely new level of personalization. So that's actually what works. Like, so people tend to think, well, let's create big segments, do a lot of huge send out because that increases the opportunity to actually get more revenue in. And it's quite the opposite. Smaller segments convert much better than larger ones. Did we see that? And it's not like a few, it's like 10, 20, 30 times better. So there's a massive improvement there. So that's the thing that you have to remember. That's like the basis for it, and then you apply that to different opportunities. So we have, for instance, Red Star, a club in Serbia, who has been able to like by just engaging the fans more. They've seen a surge in their merchandise sales. They've been able to also single out the fans that are not living in Serbia today. So then they can offer them like merchandise and doing it in the right currency, which means that they have been able to sell more merchandise, but also get a currency effect on it. So that has also been another revenue stream. So that's a good example. We have Magdeburg, who has been able to sell out really. That's a Bundesliga 2 club in Germany, who have been able to sell out a really difficult section in their stadium that's been difficult to sell up, and now they've been able to do that by knowing like what fans would actually be interested in. It may be getting a slightly cheaper ticket, but being in that section. So there's a lot you can do when you start working with it, and there's so many examples around this.
Okay. So, like, what is the most effective revenue generating strategies which you have seen, across years, which helps in implementing by using the fan data?
Oh, that is a very good question, and I would like to answer it with actually something that where I would like to see more clubs actually engaging, and that is on the sponsorship side. I mean, we see fantastic results. Like we see the revenue, or they get back, like typically they get back like 10 times the investment that they have to do, like for the license fee of Data Talks. Our customers get back at least 10 times. All right, so that's really good from the start. But there is actually more. There's more to be gained, and that is on the sponsorship side. If they start to use fan data even there. So by, for instance, leveraging some of the digital assets that are like in Data Talks, being able to use those in the packages that they offer. And the good thing with that is that, like a digital asset, it never gets sold out. They're like infinite stock of a digital asset. So that's a good one. But you can't do it because there is like this. There is one consideration, and if you do it too much, you might exhaust the supporter base, right? And that's where the fan data comes in. So you segment out the ones that would actually be interested in receiving a message from that particular sponsor. So doing that gives you the opportunity to actually sell a whole lot more of those digital assets, and you won't exhaust your supporter base. So that's a very good example of a revenue stream, which I think can be leveraged a whole lot more than it is today. And there are other things that you can do around the sponsorship as well by using fan data. But I think it's a very good concrete example.
Okay. So, like, how can you personalize marketing, and how can it transform basically the fan engagement, and how can it impact the businesses?
I mean, just by being able to like the way that we do it. I mean, we have a lot of data on the supporters, and each supporter profile contains multiple data points, right? So then it's basically up to the creativity of whoever's writing the content to use those data points in the messaging. to make it as personal as possible. But then, of course, you have to do it in a way that it doesn't feel that it doesn't feel creepy, right? So then, of course, you need a tool that can provide for that they can actually use those dynamic fields. So that's something that we, of course, provide. But you should use the different data points and making sure that if you don't have those data points, then of course you need to think of, okay, so how can I actually get them? Can I go out and ask my fans to provide me with this data? Can I do that in a creative way? So you have to think of all those uh, different topics. But I wouldn't if you have a platform where you can actually utilize the data, then you're not stopped by that at least. Then a creative idea where you're lacking the data piece, you can actually provide for that as well. So that of course makes the whole fan engagement completely different. And then it doesn't really matter what channel you're doing that in, whether it's like email or if it's WhatsApp or Viber or even like app notifications. You should always think that let's not send everything to everyone. Let's make sure that we segment and we make it as personalized as possible. Even when you're like doing the in-app notifications, make sure that you're using the fan data in that part as well. That will definitely transform the fan engagement.
Okay. So as you were talking about the data, how does it impact the ticket sales or the merchandising segment when it comes to that?
You mean how the data impacts that piece? Well, I mean it's the same thing there, I would say. What it does is that since you know what they have. So there's two things. Like let's take the ticketing for instance. Okay, so you know what they have, you know what kind of a ticket buyer they are. Like if they're a season ticket holder or if they just buy single tickets, you know how many, you know typically maybe even what sections they're in and so on. So that provides you a lot of information to sort of, and if you compare like a certain supporter to other like supporter segments, you can identify the patterns, which will give you the answer if a specific supporter is someone that you can actually push to becoming someone who would be interested in a hospitality offer or a VIP package, or actually convert someone into becoming a season ticket holder or what it might be. So that's how data can definitely impact the revenue stream like that. And it's the same thing in merchandise, of course, like understanding first of all, making sure that you're not offering them anything that they've already bought. That's like a base, right? But then also identifying patterns that they can say that, well, given the pattern that they've shown so far, they would most likely be interested in this product as well. So it's the same thing there, like using what you actually know about the supporter to again identify the gap or the opportunity to engage more or sell something that they would probably want to buy, and not just doing it because, oh, now we have a lot of jerseys left in stock. Let's make sure that we push them out. Well, that's completely wrong, because that will exhaust the supporter base. So turn it around instead. So one good example is like if you take the jerseys at the end of the season, you might be stuck with a stock of jerseys in odd sizes. Well, make sure that you have the jersey size. Have that data point then. Make sure that you've collected that during the season. So when the season ends, you know which ones who haven't bought a jersey, they have that particular size, and give them a good offer. That's that. I think it's a simple but yet excellent use case.
Absolutely. So, what role does AI play, the AI or machine learning or big data analytics play in the future of fan data monetization?
Wow, that's almost a podcast on its own, I would say. I mean, it will impact everything. I would say it will impact content creation. It will impact, of course, any like fan engagement tool. It will impact the analytics you do around this and around the supporter. So it will impact, I would say, every area. But some of the things which is of course interesting if we just look like very like near like in the near future is the content creation. For instance, like I talked about earlier, we talked about like creating these smaller segments, and that smaller segments tend to drive conversion better, right? But there is, of course, a limit to how small segments you can actually create, because the more segments you create, well, the more content you need, right? Because then you need, so that's a terrific use case for AI to actually be able to create really small segments, but then using AI in that content creation piece. For instance, creating an email. Since we have there's like millions and millions and millions and millions of emails being sent out, means that we have a very good like data set to actually understand what kind of emails would work with different segments. And since we have the club specific data and the data set, we can be pretty sure of how we would be able to auto generate emails, for instance. But of course, that's also like a tricky path, because there's always this tone of voice that you need to be careful about, and you need to like cherish that, because you each club talks to their fans in different ways. So you have to make sure that you keep that tone of voice, and it feels genuine and authentic. Because I think, like we were talking about Gen Z earlier as well, I think one of the things that they really will appreciate is the authenticity. So you need to make sure that whatever like technology you put in use, AI or anything else, that you keep that authentic piece around it. Because as soon as you sort of walk away from that, that's when you will lose out. So I think that's important.
Okay. So, like, how does blockchain and NFT fit into the fan data and the monetization segment?
I think we'll see. I think we'll see a lot more of that. I think a lot of clubs like jumped onto that train a little bit too early, and sort of burnt themselves a little bit, and didn't see really the benefit from it. So I think that will definitely come. It will definitely come when we're talking about loyalty and those kind of sort of schemes that they have. Blockchain and NFTs will definitely impact that part, how we actually work with loyalty schemes and so on. I see a great opportunity there. Like working with blockchain and NFTs in that wrapping will definitely be interesting. And then there's some really good examples already out there. But I think a lot of sort of clubs and people maybe in general are a bit skeptical still to blockchain and what it actually means. But that will definitely change. I see some fantastic opportunities in the right context. I see some absolutely fantastic opportunities there.
Okay. So, like, how do you envision in the future, like, even in your future, how like fan data monetization can happen, or what are the trends which are going on right now and it is going to carry on, which is going to continue for the next few years?
Wow. These are tough questions.
You are the
Um,
expert.
yeah, well, I mean, if I just hmm, I think that there are a couple of trends which might be a little bit more interesting. I think like and we see that already, like the fantasy games and so on. I think those will go to the next level. I think we'll see a lot more of that, and I think that whole concept will probably evolve a lot more. Everyone loves like the fantasy game, but I think there's still much more development that can be done around it, and also again in that using a lot more about the fan data in that context will be very interesting. And also maybe doing some augmented reality parts in that fantasy space will probably be an interesting development, and I don't think it's that far away. Also, again, if we look at the like on the apps that the clubs have, I think we'll see major developments in those as well. The way that they're created, like putting a lot more gamification into the apps. And I'm not talking about like gamifications like score prediction and so on, but actually taking, because video games are very like popular, esport is popular, but and using that in the apps, so making them totally more gamified. And there are a couple of app providers out there that are doing this already. And there's actually one Swedish app provider called Onsite who's done this, and they've done this for some ice hockey clubs, and that is really interesting. Where you actually go into the app, you create your own avatar, and then you can sort of get the skins and like using that game piece, which is I think really interesting, and that is really engaging, and it also at the same time creates new revenue streams. And then if you combine that with the blockchain technology, then you're getting a really interesting mix of mind-blowing opportunities, I would say.
Okay. So, I have a few more questions, but I'll ask you one last one. A few key takeaways or specific key takeaways, for the sports business leaders if they're looking to capitalize the fan data.
Mm. Okay. Okay, three takeaways. Actually, I'll give you three things that you should think about. Okay, so let's say that okay, I need to increase my revenue that's coming from my supporters. Okay. All right. So then that means that you need to, the way that you do that is actually to know your supporters. And the way that you get to know your supporters is by using the data. So then I'll leave you with three words to think about there. Well, then you need to be able to collect the data, and you need to be doing that in an automated way, and you need to do it in a way that it doesn't like take the whole budget that you have in just doing the collecting piece. So think about how to collect the data. Secondly, you need to also analyze it. You need to understand what's going on, but you need to do it in a way where you're not dependent on people with technical skills or data scientists or that. You need to provide that in a way that the people that are working, like the marketing and sales people, that they can digest the analytics in a way that makes sense to them. So that's the third thing. And then the last one is don't stop there. Act. Do the activations. Do the activation. Make sure that you start talking to your supporters in a way that they will really appreciate. And then that's not like you don't do it one, two, three, and then you're done. It's a circle. You just keep on doing it. Collect, analyze, act. It's just a circle that you keep on doing. So I'll leave you with those three words.
The takeaways were awesome, to the point, and really helpful, I think.
Super.
Okay. So we'll move on to the next segment. It's the rapid fire round. I'll ask you a few questions. You have to be quick. You cannot think.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So let's begin. First, what's your favorite sports team?
I'll give you two. One is the local team that I'm part of the board, which is Nacka. It's a floorball team. Nobody's heard of floorball, but they should look it up. It's a fantastic sport. That's one, and the second one is Manchester United.
Okay. If you could have dinner with any sports legend, who would it be?
Zlatan.
Okay. One piece of wearable tech you can't live without.
Wearable tech. You know, I don't have any wearable tech. I feel
Okay.
I'm monitored enough.
Okay, that's a nice one. What's your go-to pump-up song before a big meeting?
Oh, it's any song with Wu-Tang Clan.
Okay. If you weren't in sports tech, what career would you be in?
I would be a teacher.
Okay. Favorite city you've traveled to for a sporting event?
Uh, oh, oh, for a sporting event. I think that's yet to come. I think so. No, you know what? It's actually it is actually traveling to a very local team here in Sweden, called the city is called Degerfors. All right, it's in the middle of Sweden. It's very small, but the whole community is vibrant for the football team, and they managed to play in the top league in Swedish football, which is quite astonishing that they managed to do that. That is actually always so much fun going there.
Okay. A stadium from which you want to see a sport. One stadium, name one, which we all know.
Old Trafford.
Okay. One word to describe the future of sports.
Sorry, one.
One word to describe the future of sports.
Oh, bright.
Perfect. That was the rapid fire round. Now we'll move on to the next segment. That is, you have to answer a question into 30 seconds. Okay. According to you, how can AI, or what is the role of AI into monetization of fan data for long-term sports business growth?
It's a significant role, I think, is the best way to sort of put it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Stephen. It was an amazing session. The rapid fire was super awesome. And thank you for your timing and joining us today.
Thank you for having me, and I really enjoyed the conversation.
So, everyone, let's stay connected for more understanding on sports technology in the future. Don't forget to share this podcast with your friends, families, and the people who are interested into sports and technology. That was Stephen sharing his experience with us. And thanks for tuning in once again. And we'll see you in the next episode next time. Till then, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep exploring.